Being home alone can be peaceful, a chance to relax and have the whole place to yourself. But sometimes, that silence can be broken by a sound you can't explain, a shadow you can't place. Suddenly, the comfort of your own home turns into a cage. Today, we are rediving into 3 chilling stories from people who experienced the ultimate nightmare. Realizing they were untruly alone, these aren't just spooky tales. They're real accounts that will make you double-check your locks tonight. Our first story comes from a woman named Sarah, who was house-sitting for her wealthy aunt and uncle in a large, isolated home. It was her first night there, and the sheer size of the house was already a little unnerving. Every creak of the old floorboards seemed to echo for miles. Around 10 p.m., she was curled up on the couch watching a movie when she heard a faint scratching sound. It sounded like it was coming from the back door. She muted the TV and listened. Silence. Thinking it was just a raccoon or a stray cat, she tried to ignore it and turn the movie back on. A few minutes later, the scratching started again, but this time it was more insistent, more rhythmic. It wasn't an animal. It sounded like fingernails dragging down the wood. Her heart started pounding. She grabbed her phone and crept towards the back of the house. The scratching stopped the moment her hand touched the doorknob. She peered through the peephole, but saw nothing but the dark, empty yard. She told herself it was just the wind, the old house settling, anything to calm her nerves. She went back to the living room, but couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. She decided to call it a night and went upstairs to the master bedroom. As she was getting into bed, she noticed something strange. The closet door, which she distinctly remembered closing earlier, was now slightly ajar. A sliver of darkness peeked out. Her blood ran cold. She slowly backed out of the room, her eyes fixed on that dark gap. Just as she reached the hallway, the closet door swung wide open, revealing nothing but empty hangers and shadows. She didn't wait to see what happened next. She sprinted out of the house, jumped into her car, and drove away, not stopping until she reached a brightly lit gas station. The next morning, her uncle went to check the house. He found nothing out of place except for one thing: a series of long, deep scratches on the asterisk inside asterisk of the back door. Our second story is about a college student named Liam. He lived in a small off-campus apartment by himself. It was finals week, so he was pulling an all-nighter, fueled by coffee and the stress of his upcoming exams. The apartment building was usually noisy, but at 3 a.m., it was dead quiet. He was trying to focus on his textbook when he heard a soft thud from his kitchen. He paused, listening. Nothing. He shrugged it off as his tired mind playing tricks on him. A little while later, he heard it again, this time a bit louder, like something had been knocked over. Annoyed at the distraction, he got up to investigate. He walked into the kitchen and flicked on the light. Everything seemed normal. The counters were clear, the chairs were tucked in. He was about to turn around when his eyes caught a detail that made his stomach drop. On the tiled floor, there were wet footprints. Not his own, but larger, bare footprints, leading from the window over the sink towards the hallway he had just come from. He hadn't used the sink in hours, and the window was locked from the inside. The prints were fresh, glistening under the kitchen light. He realized with a jolt of pure terror that whoever had made them was still in his tiny apartment. He couldn't see them, but they were there. Didn't scream. He didn't make a sound. He slowly, deliberately, turned around and walked back to his desk, pretending he hadn't seen a thing. He sat down, opened his textbook, and picked up his phone. With shaking hands, he dialed 911, keeping his voice as low as a whisper as he explained the situation. The operator told him to stay on the line and that police were on their way. Those were the longest 5 minutes of his life. He sat there, pretending to study, knowing that someone was watching him from the shadows of his own home. He heard a floorboard creak in the hallway. He didn't look up, just kept his eyes glued to his book, his heart hammering against his ribs. Finally, he heard the blessed sound of sirens wailing in the distance, growing closer and closer. Then, he heard a crash. The police later told him that a man had broken out his bedroom window and jumped from the second-story fire escape. They never caught him. The scariest part for Liam? The wet footprints had started right under the kitchen window, but there were no signs of forced entry. The window had been locked from the inside. Our final story is perhaps the most unsettling of all. It comes from a Reddit user who shared an experience from his childhood. He was about 10 years old and had just gotten to that age where his parents felt comfortable leaving him home alone for short periods. One afternoon, they went to the grocery store, leaving him to his video games. He was in his room, completely engrossed in his game, when the house phone rang. Ignored it, assuming it was a telemarketer. It rang again and again, on the fifth ring. Annoyed, he paused his game and went to answer it. He picked up the receiver and said hello. There was silence on the other end. He said hello again, nothing. Just as he was about to hang up, he heard a click. It wasn't the sound of someone hanging up. It was the sound of someone picking up another phone in the house. He froze. There was another extension in his parents' bedroom, right down the hall. He slowly lowered the receiver from his ear and could faintly hear his own voice coming from it. Hello? Hello. Then, from the phone still pressed to his ear, he heard a low, raspy chuckle. It was coming from inside the house. Someone was in his parents' bedroom, listening to him on the other line. He slammed the phone down and ran. He hid in the pantry and the kitchen, pulling the door shut and trying not to make a sound. He could hear footsteps upstairs, slow and heavy, walking down the hallway towards the stairs. He held his breath, praying his parents would come home. The footsteps stopped at the top of the stairs. Minutes felt like hours. Then he heard the front door open. "We're home," his mom called out, burst out of the pantry crying and tried to explain what happened. His dad, a former police officer, immediately went into professional mode. He searched the entire house, top to bottom. Every room, every closet, under every bed. He found nothing. No one was there. There were no signs of a break-in. His parents tried to convince him that it was a crossed wire, a prank call, that his imagination had run wild. But he knew what he heard. He heard that click. He heard that laugh. He never felt truly safe in that house again, always feeling like someone was just in the other room listening. The thought that the one place you presuppose to be safe could be invaded is a fear we all share. These stories are a chilling reminder that sometimes the monster isn't under the bed. It's on the other end of the phone or leaving footprints in your kitchen. Thank you for watching. Remember to always trust your instincts. Watch the next story if you dare.